Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my predictions for which team's going to finish 4th in the Premier League this season, and that will mean them obviously qualifying for the Champions League next season. I think it's pretty obvious. We have Manchester City, Liverpool and Chelsea who have ran away with the other 3 spots, so let's see which other team can capitalise and finish 4th. And I think it's going to be an incredible race because we have 4 teams competing for the last spot this season. We got Manchester United, who obviously replaced their manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and brought in Ralf Rangnick. We got Tottenham, who replaced their manager Nuno and brought in Conte, a world-class manager, and we got the underdogs Arsenal and West Ham also gunning for a top 4 place. But before going into this video and give my predictions who I think is going to finish 4th, I'm also going to be talking about the pros and cons. I'm going to be talking about the advantages and disadvantages each team has. But before going into this video, like I always say, remember to like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there. Make sure you guys in the comments give me your own predictions. Who do you think is going to finish 4th? So the first team I'm going to be talking about is Arsenal. And after an abysmal, pathetic start in terms of the Premier League this season, losing their first 3 games, not even scoring a goal, it feels like they've turned things around and are 6th right now on the table with the young manager and also the young players who are spearheading their charge in terms of the top 4 race this season. The key additions of Tomiyasu and Ben White has provided stability in the back 4 with Gabriel and Tierney to make sure they can keep clean sheets this season. So let's see if they can carry this form on, if they can finish into the top 4 places this season. But I mean, overall, Arsenal fans should be excited because they have Saka, one of the best young players in the league so far, showing that he can improve on his end product. We have Smith-Rowe, Italian 8 goals in the Premier League this season, making his name profound in terms of the English Premier League, that he's a goal-scoring midfielder. And we have Martinelli, who is filled with bags of talent. And although I feel like that's Arsenal's biggest strength, I feel like at the same time that's Arsenal's biggest weakness. I just feel like it's honestly not going to work. I rely on your young, youthful players in terms of competing for a top 4 place. It's just too much pressure, and we know when it comes to young players, we know they're fearless. They'll literally try to play their best and they'll play for the badge. We know that. I'm not doubting, obviously, when it comes to what they have inside them, the intangibles. They'll always compete for Arsenal Football Club, especially players like Saka and Smith-Rowe who came through the academy. But I just feel like it's too much pressure to put on young players' shoulders, and we know when it comes to young players, they will have inconsistent performances. In the history of football game, we know it takes time for young players to grow and develop, and they're going to have their bad spells and bad patches. And the fact that Arsenal are relying on these young players to be their best players to spearhead to a top 4 place is just unrealistic. And we know when it comes to Arsenal's experienced players, especially this season, Xhaka getting red carded, Aubameyang in and out of the squad, being stripped of the captaincy, and Lacazette not having the ability to inspire the players on the pitch by scoring goals, that Arsenal cannot rely on their experienced players when it comes to a top 4 charge this season. So it looks like they have an imbalance in terms of their leadership, because if it gets rough, if it goes bad in terms of the spell, when they have bad games against Burnley and bad games against other teams, who's going to inspire them? Who's going to have the character? Who's going to be animated? Who's going to guide these young players to make sure that they still have the heart and the passion that they can actually finish in the top 4 places? And if you compare this to other teams who are also competing for the top 4 places, you got managers like Antonio Conte, who all he knows is Champions League football and is managing their arch rival Spurs. And they have players like Harry Kane, Son, Lloris, who know how to compete for a top 4 place. You also got Manchester United, where you have Cristiano Ronaldo, who's literally missed the Champions League, winning 5 in his career. You have players like Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, Sancho, who have played in Champions League big moments and know how to spearhead their side to a Champions League place. So I feel like overall, Arsenal are lacking the know-how and the experience when it comes to competing for a top 4 place. However, not all is gloom is at Arsenal right now when it comes to competing for a top 4 place. They're only playing once a week, which is obviously going to work in their advantage. They're going to be well rested. They're going to have the energy to compete on a weekly basis. And that's so important, especially for Arsenal Football Club, when we know they only pretty much have only one starting 11. They don't have the strength and depth compared to teams like Manchester United competing for a top 4 race. Also, their defence, I feel like out of the other 3 sides competing for a Champions League spot, is the best. I feel like Tomiyasu and Ben White, like I said earlier in the video, have been great additions to the squad. And if you remove their first 3 games, which conceded 9 goals, literally they have the best defense out of the other 3 teams, only conceding 16 goals altogether. So with these other factors, maybe potentially Arsenal could get into a top 4 place, but I feel like the lack of experience, the players with the experience setting bad examples, and the youth is just going to cost them. So the next team I'm going to be talking about is Manchester United, and undoubtedly, unequivocally, it's undeniable that Manchester United have the best starting lineup compared to the other 3 teams. And I know what you're thinking. They're playing in the FA Cup. still playing in the latter stages of the Champions League. How are they going to spread out their time perfectly to make sure they still have the rest? They still feel rejuvenated when it comes to the other competition of the Premier League. Manchester United have the strength and depth in that department to deal with this. Although I did just say Manchester United have the players in world-class positions like Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, good players all around the pitch like Sancho and Rashford who are looking to gain form this season, it's undeniable that they still do not have a football identity when it comes to playing football. They still lack a philosophy, a way of playing, and I know Ralf Rangnick has just come in and tried to install his new ideas of Gegenpress, but I'm still seeing half-hearted pressing. I don't know if it's because of the players are lazy, I don't know if it's because of the old age of Ronaldo and Cavani, or I just don't know what it is that Ralf Rangnick has the inability to inspire the players to do this because of their big personalities. At the end of the day, Manchester United have been performing inconsistently because they're still yet to have a coherent style of play when we've been seeing it on the pitch. It just hasn't been working. So at the end of the day, give me a well-drilled team. Give me a team which knows their duties, their responsibilities, how to perform on the pitch like Spurs do, Arsenal do, even West Ham know how to do when it comes to a week-on-week basis. Manchester United still are flawed in that department, and we should be expecting a lot more inconsistent results when it comes to this season. But at the end of the day, we know players win games. Yes, coaches are so pivotal when it comes to title charges, but I feel like Manchester United do not need the correct coach when it comes to finishing in the top four like we've seen in the last 2 or 3 seasons or so under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when they finished third and second. They still have their match winners. They still have their world-class players to win them games when it really matters. We've seen Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, even Ronaldo step up when it looks like it's going bad. Even when they're playing poorly, they know how to get the result done. So at the end of the day, Manchester United have the players, they have the firepower, they have the characters in the locker room to make sure that they can get results when they need it to finish in the top 4 race this season. However, there are other disadvantages as well. We know Ralf Rangnick loves to speak about, preach about, wanting his side to control, dictate games. But how are you going to dictate games? We have McTominay, Fred and Matic in the midfield. Matic obviously no longer in his prime. Fred always loses the ball and McTominay always hides away from showing for the ball. So this isn't the type of midfield you want at your disposal if you want to compete for a top 4 place. And if you actually play respectable sides like we've seen this season against Liverpool, Manchester City, even Wolves, even lower sides as well, they will literally dictate games and beat you to it. So obviously Manchester United are lacking in this department and this could cost them. Also defensively they've been a shambles, changing it all the time because of Varane's injury, Maguire's injury, and obviously what happened to Lindelof as well in the last couple of weeks or so. They have not providing consistent lineup when it comes to the back 4, even Wan-Bissaka and Shaw dropping out for the favoured Telles and Dalot on the fullback positions. So obviously how are you going to build some sort of continuity when these players are always missing to make sure you keep clean sheets? David De Gea has been one of the most busiest goalkeepers this season, actually having the most saves this season, and that's scary for a side who's looking to finish in the top 4 this season. You can't keep relying on David De Gea to keep bringing out these sort of performances, heroic performances, all-time great performances all the time if you want to compete and finish in the top 4 this season. So the next team I'm going to be talking about is Tottenham Hotspur, who have 3 games in hand, and I honestly believe the only team out of the 4 who actually have a world-class manager who I trust to guide their team to a top 4 place. We know wherever team Conte goes, success follows him. Inter Milan, Juventus, Chelsea, success follows him. Maybe he's not always in the form of a trophy, which we obviously know Spurs haven't been able to win one, but Spurs, for them, success this season will be finishing in the top 4, which Tottenham fans should be hopeful for because they have the right manager in the right job at the right place to secure them this position. But at the same time as their manager being their biggest strength, at the moment it feels like he's being their biggest weakness, always worrying and crying, rightly so, that he does not have the personnel to compete with teams like Arsenal, Manchester United in and around you for a top 4 place this season. How are players supposed to look the manager in the eye and actually be inspired? Because we know Conte is one of those managers who inspires, he's very animated, he has a massive character and literally wants his players to play with emotion. How is he supposed to bring the emotion out of his players when you know deep inside your manager doesn't even believe in you? How are you supposed to perform your best? I'm not saying the Tottenham players will down tools for Antonio Conte, but we know they do not have the quality compared to Manchester United and even Arsenal. But at the end of the day, we know Conte has the ability to make the players perform better than what they actually are, and he isn't going to do that if he's always going to the media saying that these players aren't good enough. So at the end of the day, Conte either needs to shut up or Daniel Levy needs to provide him the players, the personnel to make sure he's quiet, to make sure he returns back to his usual self. But if Antonio Conte is happy, it's hard to see why success will not follow. We've already seen it so far in a small sample size as a Tottenham manager, him already having success. Players like Tanganga is rash, we know Dyer is not mobile enough, and we know Sanchez has no defensive awareness around him when it comes to attacking threats. But at the end of the day, we have seen Antonio Conte actually turn them to average or above average players in his tenure as a manager already. But also, if you look at it from this perspective, Tottenham fans should have hope. Imagine someone told you, right, you have 3 games in hand, you're only 2 to 3 points behind Manchester United, who are 4th, and Harry Kane hasn't even been performing at his best this season. Your best player, one of the best strikers in the world, clearly the best striker in the world, right next to Lewandowski and Benzema last season, racking up all those assists and goals. Imagine he hasn't been performing at his best, and I told you you're 2 to 3 points away from a top 4 place. You would take that in a heartbeat, because you'd be thinking world-class players obviously suffer bad periods of form, but class is permanent, and that will eventually prevail. That will eventually show in your performances, and you will eventually get the goals and assists to make up for the poor start to the season. So I'm not going to bet against Harry Kane that he doesn't turn this around, especially since he's going to have some rest time because of the new winter break installed for the Premier League season this year. And obviously the whole drama, the whole transfer debacle of Manchester City, all those rumours were last year, leave that behind, and it's a new year and it's a new Harry Kane. So let's see if he's going to be able to put that behind him and focus on his goals this season for helping Tottenham finish in the top 4. Obviously Son as well, let's see what he will do after he returns from injury, having a decent season, maybe not hitting the heights as he was last year. However, his goals to game ratio this season shouldn't be laughed at and should be respected. So let's see what this dynamic duo can do like they did last season, and see if in the latter stage of this season can rally up the goals. So the last team I'm going to be talking about is West Ham, and they're the true underdogs, the true dark horses when it comes to the Champions League race this season to finish in the top 4. Obviously they do not have the world-class manager at their disposal like Antonio Conte, even though David Moyes is a respected manager and has turned it around ever since he left Manchester United. Obviously they do not have the world-class players at their disposal at Manchester United, with players like Ronaldo, players like Bruno Fernandes, Sancho, Rashford, great young players. Obviously they do not even have that. So yes, they are the underdog. Yes, they are the dark horses. Obviously. But at the end of the day, this may play into their favour. Maybe this will actually alleviate the pressure, make sure they play with freedom, and make sure they enjoy their football. And when you enjoy your football, good results start to follow. So potentially this is a better slot to be in, because we know pressure makes diamonds, but at the same time we know pressure makes teams and players crack. Ask Tottenham for their history in the last 10 to 15 years. Ask Manchester United last year when it came to the Europa League final. When eyes are watching you, when there's expectations, that's what leads to players and teams' downfall. So West Ham do not have this, and on a week-to-week basis, like Leicester did in 2015-16 when they won the league, they can literally be like, we're not the favourites, no one's expecting anything from us, and when the pressure alleviates, the performances start to rise. So I like that this is in West Ham's favour. But let me just talk about the obvious. Let me just talk about what's realistic. West Ham probably won't get into the top 4 race this season because obviously they do not have the squad. Yes, players like Rice, yes, players like Antonio are good players. Players like Souček. But what if one of these players get injured? What if a Rice get injured? What if a Souček gets injured? What if an Antonio gets injured? What if a Cresswell get injured? It's going to be a massive miss, and the quality of football they will play will obviously reduce. They are missing Ogbonna this season already, and we have seen the defensive frailties start to creep into the West Ham side. Ogbonna was one of their mainstays, one of their leaders at the back who provided stability across the back line. So obviously when you're travelling abroad to European countries, when you're versing in the Europa League, what if they get injury? What if they're lucky and not getting injury? These players are going to be tired because West Ham don't have the strength in depth like Manchester United do. So West Ham over the course of the season, yes, they're playing in the Europa League. Yes, they're playing in the FA Cup. And Manchester United obviously have those responsibilities as well. Manchester United have the squad to deal with this. So I will not be surprised if West Ham start to creep away. And another thing which I've noticed from West Ham this season, I've just seen complacency creep into their performances this year. When it comes to teams against Chelsea and Liverpool and Tottenham, they feel inspired. They feel like they want to perform. They'll play for the badge. They'll actually go toe-to-toe with these teams like we've seen this season and actually win. Even beat Manchester City and Manchester United in the Carabao Cup. But when it comes to the lower teams like Southampton, teams like Leeds, we don't see the same performances. It just feels like complacency. It feels like they play up to their competition and play down to the ones who are below them. And we've seen them suffer costly losses. which are going to potentially cost them when it comes to the top 4 race. So West Ham really need to fix this up if they want to finish in the top 4. They've even dropped points against Burnley, who are bottom of the league. Overall, to finish my video, I'm just going to give my predictions who I think who's going to finish where when it comes to the top 4 race. The first team I'm going to be predicting is West Ham, and I think they're going to finish 7th in the league. Like I said, they are playing with freedom, they are playing with courage and confidence, as they do not have the expectations on their shoulders. But at the end of the day, travelling into European countries, competing for the Europa League, I feel like they might even prioritise that competition, because West Ham have not won a trophy since the 80s. And also over 2 legs, West Ham may see that as a better avenue getting Champions League football compared to playing the last 15 games against top quality teams in the Premier League. The team which I think will finish 6th is Arsenal FC. They still have a young manager, young players, and the characters when it comes to their leadership, their experienced players are just not performing. So Arsenal have no leaders in the squad to galvanise the players to make sure they have the confidence, the belief in their system that they can finish in the top 4. How are they going to get there? I just don't know. The team which I think will finish 5th will be Tottenham, and I think they will push Manchester United quite far, but in Tottenham Spursy fashion, they will just choke it like they usually do on a consistent basis. I just feel like they just do not have the quality, the personnel to cover the cracks when it comes to finishing in the top 4 race, because we know Manchester United have much more quality in that disposal when it comes to their players. The 4th place team which I think will finish there is Manchester United, undoubtedly. I just feel like their players are just too good. Yes, they'll be freestyling. Yes, they'll think they're playing in Power League and they won't have tactics on a consistent basis to win games. But they just have the players. Can you imagine Ronaldo playing in the Europa League? No, I can't. Can you imagine Bruno Fernandes not showing up over the next 15 games? No. Can you not imagine Pogba coming back in his final year, contracted year at Manchester United, and not trying to put the record straight that he's one of the world's best players? No. I just feel like in moments, if one's not performing, another player will. Like, these players are just too good. And I feel like De Gea will continue his great form despite his defensive players not playing well, because although Dean Henderson hasn't left the club yet, we have seen De Gea have great seasons, but still feel under pressure because there is a young player behind him looking to take his role. So I feel like as long as Dean Henderson stays in the transfer window this year, it's just small pressure that David De Gea knows not to be complacent in his performances. Otherwise, Manchester United still have a decent replacement up their sleeve. So overall, I think Manchester United will finish 4th.